Hi everybody, Steve here, and on the British Railroaders today we're going to talk about my personal top 3 favourite modelling tools. So let's get down on the workbench and have a little look. So number 3 on my list may seem like a bit of an obvious choice, but tweezers. How many pairs of tweezers do you own? What different types of tweezers do you have? Did you know that different tweezers work better for different jobs? So I've got a little selection of I've probably got another dozen pairs of tweezers. On top of these, some are very similar to each other, but all of them fulfill a slightly different function. So for example, this pair of opposable tweezers are great for gripping things without you having to keep pressing them together. These ones and these ones with the curved tips are really handy for getting things into places, like trying to get figures into seats in locomotive cabs, etc. Also, I've got here some pointed tweezers, as you can see, some very fine ones and some slightly bigger ones. And again, when you want to get those fine details in place, especially the ones that are kind of hard to grip, probably the best example I can give you is something like handrails. Handrails in pre-drilled holes. Trying to get them in place can be a bit of a nightmare, but these seem to be the best ones that I have for that. And then finally here on this selection, I've got a pair of eyebrow tweezers. Yes, these came from a cosmetics set. I might have actually bought them, either that or I pinched them from possibly my mum many years ago, but for the looks of these are probably ones that I bought myself. But these are really handy, and if you're trying to pull things out, these work really well because they're designed to grab and tug hairs, which can be quite slippery. So these are actually really useful tweezers. So there's number 3, tweezers. Always make sure you have a good selection. Let's move on to number 2. And in the number 2 spot, we have a locomotive servicing cradle. This is the second one of these that I've had in my entire modelling career. I bought one, must be well over 20 years ago, and it lasted until this year where the foam was just starting to disintegrate, because it is foam, it's going to do that. But these things aren't expensive. I will put the price just here below. This one comes from Pico, which is probably the most common brand here in the UK. And the easiest to get hold of. These are a must if you are at that point where you're servicing your engines, because there is nothing worse than trying to juggle something when it's upside down. And what these do is these hold them firmly in place, but they don't hurt the details. And if you do have a detail, so for example on my HO scale locomotive here, I've got an antenna at the top which is a little bit loose. So what I can do is when I put it in the cradle, I can make sure that bit hangs over the end here and the rest of the body sits in it, and it keeps it nice and stable but protects that. Similarly with this, you've got some handy inserts so that if you're using N scale, it fits in. So you don't have to buy a separate locomotive cradle for the different scales that we use. And there are some end stoppers as well, so you can actually hold things in quite tightly if you want to. As I said, I can't imagine modelling without one of these. I have tried, and sometimes I forget that I have it, and I juggle things about and then suddenly think, why the heck did I not get the locomotive surfacing cradle out? So there you go. That is my number 2 on this list. So let's move to the number 1 spot. And in the number 1 spot for me, it has to be my airbrush and compressor. I never thought I would need one of these, but I don't think I could live without it now in modelling terms. I got it a year ago, and it is probably the most useful tool from a modelling perspective that I have ever bought. The amount of things that I've painted with it, the weathering that I've done, I'll put a link at the end to my weathering video that I did where I used an airbrush to weather a locomotive. You've probably heard me speak about Boomer before, whose channel is here on YouTube. He is a great proponent of using the airbrush for everything. I mean, he does hand brush some things, but the amount of painting that he does with an airbrush, and he does it on scenery, he does it on, well, everything. He will airbrush things big and small, and to be honest, to go with this you need good masking tape, because that's a skill into itself, but one that I'm slowly working on. But don't be afraid of an airbrush. There is a lot of snobbery about airbrushes out there. This one, it was not particularly expensive. It was for the compressor and airbrush, it was around about £100 from Amazon. And the airbrush itself, there are probably better ones out there, but I'm quite happy with how it works. Keeping it clean is quite easy. Getting spares for it is quite easy. And I use it quite a lot. And as well as painting, there is one other thing that you can do with it that is really rather handy. I mean, how often do you look at your models and think, oh my God, they've got dusty? Turn on your airbrush, crank up the pressure, and use it just to spray air at your models, and you have got an air duster, which works out, over a period of time at least, a darn sight cheaper than buying cans of air duster, like the type they use on computers. So there it is. That is number 1, my favourite tool. So there we go, folks. That's my personal top 3 tools that I just couldn't live without. And let's face it, I can't live without any of my tools, whether it be paint brushes, snippers, screwdrivers, all of those kind of things. As modelers, you need a whole range of tools, but you'll always have favourites, and they're mine. I'm not saying they're ones that you have to have. Certainly the tweezers are probably the most common ones that everybody will have, and most of you have probably got some kind of locomotive cradle. The airbrush, I can understand, may worry some people. A lot of people don't like the thought of using an airbrush and are a little bit scared by it, and I was. And it wasn't until I got one and started to play around with it and learn how to use it that I suddenly realised that actually, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not as difficult as I thought it would be. So there you go. Thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen tonight, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you're still interested, please subscribe. This is a bit different from the last few videos that I've done because I've not been out and about, because it is just a little bit cold over here in the UK at the moment, with temperatures dropping below freezing. But I will see you again very soon. I'm hoping to have a video out next week, probably after the weekend, of something just a little bit special. So you'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully that will come off, as long as we don't have any more, well, there will be strike action, etc. But hopefully it's not going to affect it. So thanks for watching. This is Steve from my model railway round saying goodbye, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.